Ladies and gentlemen, honorable ministers, honorable permanent secretaries, I take this opportunity to welcome Jack Sime to give an opening speech on the regional coordination for the East African Youth Network.
We are the voice of the civil society and we are the voice of the career sector. That's why we are here to represent our youth in innovation. And ISTECO also, when you look at their strategy, the ISTECO strategy, it talks about accelerating integration through technology. And they have done it, and that's how they came up with this innovation for youth. We thank Mr. Mian because he has really taught us that you don't need to get a job at the East African community. But the moment you unlock the youth potential that we have here, we are going to unlock the whole of East Africa because we are the majority.
So, why are we here today? First, I think we're here to celebrate the development, the development, investment in innovation and technology all over the region. We're here, first of all, to celebrate because in this development is where we get the future of tomorrow. In this development is where we get the solutions towards the problems that youth are facing and the challenges today. Secondly, we are also here to empower the youth who constantly face challenges, be it infrastructural challenges, be it lack of resources, and be it other structural barriers that generally tend to hinder the youth in the space that exists today. We are very aware and we're very thankful as the youth within the region that we are having advancements towards infrastructure and development. We are having, for example, higher internet connectivity being developed across the region with states, for example, such as like South Sudan and Burundi, who previously did not necessarily have that much internet access, having wider and greater reach. And we think that these steps are being taken to be able to better develop innovation in the space that exists within East Africa today.
We are happy to be able to collaborate with ISTECO in this conference and support the successful implementation through IOCEA and its D-Skills at EA project. D-Skills at EA and its Center of Excellence, Senate at EA, offer a market-oriented 2-year master's program in embedded and mobile systems. It excels through its regional exchange, including students and universities from across the region and Germany. With IOCEA and in collaboration with ISTECO, we aim to foster a regional innovation network to unlock the youth development potential. Against this background, this forum helps to guide these initiatives and make sure they are targeted to the needs of the youth in the EAC.
This forum is hosted by ISTECO. We focus on development of regional science, technology, and innovation policies, frameworks, and strategies. Honorable guest of honor, one of the specific objectives of ISTECO is to develop mechanisms for identification, promotion, and growth of special talents in science and technology, with particular emphasis given to growth, to youth, considering other cross-cutting issues that are in the space. In this forum, therefore, we will discuss topical issues related to innovations in the region. We'll discuss topical issues on the innovation space in science and technology. I would like to take this chance, therefore, to welcome the Minister to give her remarks.
Let me begin by welcoming you to Uganda. How do we actually make science, technology, and innovation work? We are blessed to have a lot of young people, and many times they are presented as a problem. You are our treasure. You are not a problem at all. Actually, the future of East Africa is yours. However, for us to massively transform society, we need industries. We need the innovations from these people to become industrial products. When we have smaller scale innovations, we need to make sure they have an off-taker. Where are they supplying? Who is going to buy? Because that's what kills them.
The treaty for the establishment of East African Community recognizes the fundamental role of science and technology for the economic development and it is enforced in Chapter 16, Article 103, which mandates partner states to promote cooperation in development and application of science and technology within the community, and further complemented by Article 80 on industrial development.
Honorable, we want to thank you very much for giving us the space to be with you in the World Science Day. It's a good opportunity for Esteco to be with our partner state in organizing such events.
Definitely the youth play a critical role in any demographic aggregation, and for ESC it's not different at all because of the role that the youth can play. At one point we used to say that innovation is cross-cutting. That's true. In all sectors of the economy, innovation is a key driver. And after this, with the guidance of the management of Esteco, we should be able to run an innovation masterclass for all the youth participants for this session, but a time that will be communicated so that you can actually have more time to know where is your need, what can we do to give you that head start.
I like the idea of Honorable Dr. Monica. She told us how to bring our innovative idea to the market. And I think that is the most important part because that leads us to the development.
Social media is one thing that's leading the development of East Africa worldwide, everywhere. So if you think that you're not going to get the funds, if you think that maybe you're being backslided in agriculture, in this and this, take time to actually make videos, communicate to the community through social media, and you know when people are reaching out, you know if this and this, I'm getting feedback, this is how I should do this and this and that.
So I think in East Africa and perhaps at a continental level, we need to be able to give as many opportunities as possible to the young people so that we can elevate them from where they are. And I think one of these opportunities is the fact that right now we are seated here discussing innovation and allowing young people to express their potential and giving them the spaces that they can use to actually get to the next level.
As East African community and as Africa in general, the concept of having a connected and a skilled labor force in the digital sector is an obvious factor. And as you can see from the COVID pandemic, how it affected the businesses that were operating physically and didn't have any digital presence, we can see how much the pandemic affected them. And that was like a symbol for us to see how we should start investing in our digital sector and our technology sector more.
There are many young people out there who are doing innovations, but they don't, for instance, have a website. They don't, for instance, have those platforms. Again, that's where the element of ICT comes into play, because ICT can be an enabler, but it can also be a barrier. That when you are left out of ICT, there are many opportunities that you get to miss.
For sure, we need to work on our economic legal framework. You may see some products online, but are you able to pay? Do you have the services available for payment, like the smart cards, digital wallets, or there are no computers? So in such cases, it will be very difficult for young people to actually thrive and progress on their innovation, especially in science and technology, where you don't have the internet, you don't have the network, or in most cases, there could be no even power.
But one of the biggest challenges we have in the ecosystem, I think maybe continent-wise, is that the bureaucracy, the access to the funding, the access to the knowledge is still low. So how are you making sure that all these things are addressed? Thank you so much.
One thing I can say, for speaking of, as a platform, we usually work with the CSOs, the civil societies, and the NGOs in our partner states. And as for Tanzania, we are currently in the organizing of a pre-commemoration of EAC back in Tanzania, and we're looking into having a number of young people so that they can know, because we have realized that a lot of young people don't really know the benefits of this integration, and some of them are still trading while paying the illegal means, paying for taxes that they shouldn't even pay for. So we are working on organizing such events and also working with the NGOs so that they can better help us as a platform to advance the work of the EAC and actually reach out to more people in the rural community, in the communities that we can't access them.
So the whole point here is that there are different thematic areas depending on where innovations could lie, but also there are obligations here, or the role is not just for the ambassadors. There's some sort of personal also outreach that you ought to reach others, but also you ought to connect the people that you meet here.
So access to funding, I think, is a key problem that we're having in the region, but it's also because a lot of youth or a lot of the region is dependent on the very old or conventional sources of finance. Anyone here coming from Kenya, we have the Movable Properties and Securities Act. What this does is it gives you the opportunity to access loans, not, for example, with things such as land and, for example, cars, which can be hard to access for youth and people just starting their businesses. You can be able to secure this through the means through which you're doing business.
Let's clap for the ambassadors for the good job done.
The discussion, or the theme of the discussion this afternoon, is on national innovation ecosystem and intellectual property applications. And we would like to hear from our panelists, both physical and virtual. Dr. Nungu, what is the status of the national innovation ecosystem in the United Republic of Tanzania?
We are, because we are working with the researchers and innovators, on one side, we educate them. On the other side, we assist them in the registration process, because it is a cumbersome process. The researchers might have the know-how, but we have found that the innovators, even filing the papers, it is quite cumbersome for them. So we have been assisting them at least for the last 2 years. But still, I would say, yeah, there is still the amount of registered IPs is not promising.
Burundi considers the area of science, technology, and innovation as an important enabler that can facilitate development and job opportunities in the country and in the region. It's important to note that the national innovation system co-evolves with the national production system. And I believe that collaboration at national and regional level involving the private sector is the surest way of translating our research outputs and IP applications in practical uses.
We have a huge project which is known as the National Science, Technology, Engineering and Innovation Skills Enhancement Project, where we are trying to provide infrastructure to support our young innovators. So we have 2 infrastructures being set up. One is in Namamve, that is the Kampala Industrial Park, where we have space where those who have their innovations and they want to test through can use. And then we have another infrastructure in Kirura district in western Uganda, where it can host like 1,500 youth. And then also within the ecosystem, UNCST works with Research and Education Network of Uganda.
So, right about now, I want to introduce to you our plenary session 5, and we are talking about entrepreneurship playing a vital role in the East African region, in line with the priorities outlined in the various economic blueprints that governments across the region are relying on.
The ranking of Uganda in as far as the innovation index is concerned, this index is run by the World Intellectual Property Organization every year. We are at 132 at 119 out of 132 economies. We are not doing badly. But what are those areas that this innovation index looks at? Now in Uganda, since 2019, you can use intellectual property as collateral. You can use your registration certificate of that app, of that copyright, of that patent, of that innovation, of that technovation, and more for credit, access to affordable credit.
Investors are always very interested in intellectual property and protection of the product and how the funds are going to be used. And it's important in building your pitch deck to understand those different elements. And when you make the pitch, it's important to recognize the group that you're pitching to.
Another statistic that should get us thinking is that from 2016 to 2018, those years, India alone contributed a third of the world's graduates in STEM. And then you start to wonder why they are pushing ahead. So in Uganda, and I think, I'm not so sure about the other countries next to us, but in Uganda, you see the government is putting a lot of energy in STEM. And that's where the energy needs to go if we are to talk about innovation.
One of the biggest problems of the location that I'm in Malaysia, is the same thing that you articulated. Market size of Malaysia is very small, and the startup ecosystem is always told, the first thing they're told is, don't think Malaysia as a market, just 25 million or about 30 million people. I also found this fascinating. There's a word called wicked problems, the problems we all face today, the challenges of the pandemic or the disruptions, etc. And all research seems to show that it's entrepreneurs. I've added a line that entrepreneurs also working with the large corporations. You have Suraj here from MasterCard. I'm sure he'll tell you more about how they would support the youth in terms of building businesses.
A lot of the businesses that we see, within their co-founding team, they don't have the hard skills to actually build the product itself. And this is a problem because they try to hire someone or get a friend to develop the product, and you just can't build a technology company very well, or it's almost impossible to build it if you can't build the product within the founding team, because it's just so expensive and inefficient, and it's very hard to always get the customer feedback into the product development cycle.
How much else do we need to do for those students who come out at secondary school? And we're talking about technical skills. We're talking about entrepreneurship skills. We're talking about digital literacy, for example. We're talking about STEM. I think it was Engineer Nicholas who said, there's a lot of energy being put in STEM. This is my point. The average percentage of transition from secondary to any form of tertiary in Africa is 8%. And if we don't nurture innovation much earlier through the relevant skills, thinking differently, science, more in-depth science, and I'll come back to STEM, and then entrepreneurship at that level, then I think this is probably one of the reasons where, who said, was it you, Engineer Nicholas, who said, these products are not big, their ask is not big, because we're not breaking some mold by nurturing that level of innovation at that very early stage.
And then, by the way, we can have a kind of a concrete action on this funding issues.
To our panelists, thank you so much, online and right here. Another round of applause. Thank you, thank you.
Since you are talking of crop production, may you please tell us the opportunities of crop production, especially in agriculture in East Africa communities, and how these innovators can explore or take advantage of those opportunities?
Agriculture, as I said before, agriculture is everything. As you know, our region is a hotspot for biodiversity, including natural and agronomic biodiversity. And here I wish to call upon innovators to work on climate change in order to propose a suitable solution aiming at helping our people to face climate change by adaptation by mitigating or by even resisting it.
We have a chief rapporteur who has been working with the various rapporteurs from different sessions. She will read for us the key observations and the key recommendations. These are the ones we shall take to the ministerial session for the ministers and the permanent secretaries to make resolutions henceforth for their implementation.
What I found when I was doing the summary is that there are three main topics and three main themes in what the youth is asking for in terms of resolutions from this conference. And that can be summarized as follows, is that they have an understanding and a commitment from decision makers to have ease of business most prioritized in terms of your initiatives. The second is that there must be education put forward, and not just education in one sphere, but a new innovative way of educating the youth. Lastly, and most importantly, is the youth must be involved in their own solutions. They're asking for youth leadership in what is going to happen going forward. So I will start with ease of doing business. The first wider resolution is this: lobbying the government in the region to prioritize the following measures and foster a fertile environment for businesses and innovation to grow. So the first one is the Free for Youth initiative that already exists in Rwanda. There's a call that those lessons be taken and that be a regional implementation, a regional idea instead of just being in one country. What is good about that is Mr. Bruce Sikindi said, let's not reinvent the wheel. It's working somewhere. Can it be applied elsewhere as well? The second is the establishment of a stamp of approval mark or a quality process to go along with it that signifies that East African products are of high quality. And what that means is Africans will be able to buy products from the region knowing that they have been tested, that they have been accredited, and what you're buying and paying is of value. The third is a policy framework in the region that supports ICT infrastructure capacity, and that is focused on connectivity, affordability, and regulation. Lastly but not least is the implementation of already existing trade agreements. This means that what has been ratified needs to be actually seen in practice, so that a captured market already exists for East African products. If countries are able to buy each other's products, these innovators and these youth innovators will already have a captured market before moving on to Europe and elsewhere. Secondly, we move on to innovator education. Innovator education actually has two different sets of education. We had only thought of one, how to educate our innovators. So working with someone who's already at a mature stage and getting them to be able to know how to run a business, patents, and so on and so forth. But you will see that it's been now split into two because it seems as education needs to start from the grassroots. So I will start with the former. The first is we will lobby governments in the region to consider the complete restructuring of the education system. The education system is doing the following in terms of changes to be seen. It must be implemented from primary school level all the way to university level. Otherwise, it's said that if you're going to intervene at a later stage, it might not be applicable. Then we need to take modern modes of education. Those methods need to be mixed in with already existing traditional methods of learning to make sure that kids are well-rounded. We need to then put in the use of existing, additional, and contextualized digital platforms. So what is already there needs to be shared amongst the regional players and find new solutions that may exist elsewhere, but also make sure that it's right for the context of how and where you're operating. Lastly, in terms of education on a primary level, restructure courses and certification projects and programs to match global demand. promote innovation, and also align with SDG goals. It can't happen in a vacuum and alone. The second is establishment of smart innovation hubs in the region to be both virtual and physical. Smart innovation hub objectives will be as follows: provide e-learning facilities in rural areas and online resources to upskill the youth, share critical information related to STI, innovations, and the management of businesses, increase educational programs in STI that are experiential in nature, coordinate activities between academia, industry, and business development service players and organizations in the ecosystem, so that we're not working in parallel and doing the same thing in different corners and working in silos. This was also mentioned this morning, and the key players that are already there and can be identified are the ones I've just mentioned. And finally, the last theme, as you've seen, I've covered education. I have covered what else was needed. I've covered 2 themes so far. So ease of doing business has been covered, education has been covered, and now we come to youth leadership. One thing that a lot of the youth that I've spoken to over the 2 days has said to me, and the observation I've made, is that forums like these are wonderful, but they're not always the areas of learning. They also need to be areas of conversation that happens one way and both ways. So in order to do that, they feel and are asking for a seat at the table. And they would like the establishment of a youth steering committee to serve as a permanent part of the forum that has the following abilities: to contribute to the youth development strategy across the region, to participate in the implementation of resolutions, the ones I've just mentioned. I think that will be for this year, but also going forward. The steering committee should also assist in the drafting of its own guiding policies to define its role and responsibilities.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of us. We are really excited and encouraged, especially with the youth and our senior guests who are also here with us. We have got a lot of counsel from our senior members and a lot of enthusiastic suggestions from the youth. I think integrating the two will help us come up with very good resolutions and solutions to issues that are affecting our communities, our nations, and our region. We look forward to further engagements in a similar session. This is not the last of it. Actually, this is the first regional youth innovation forum. Asanteni sana.